Before we get started, I wanted to clarify I am performing this analysis as a fan of the New England Patriots and of Mac Jones. I am not attempting to smear any particular person or organization. My goal is to simply provide a breakdown of Mac's throwing technique and provide a prescription to address the issues. The New England Patriots failed to make it to the playoffs this season with an 8-9 record. Following a promising rookie year, quarterback Mac Jones had a sophomore slump and was one of the NFL's least efficient signal callers. As a result, New England finished 26th in yards per game compared to 15th the previous season. Misguided offensive play calling appeared to be the primary issue for most of the season. However, the offensive line was a disaster and passing targets failed to create strong separation for Mac. On the other hand, many believe Mac does not have the talents to be a starting NFL QB, most notably his perceived lack of arm strength and velocity. Personally, I don't see a dead arm or anthropometric limitations or a complete lack of athleticism. I see some extremely glaring issues in Mac's throwing technique that limits his ability to produce enough force to yield the velocities we see in elite quarterbacks. My goal is to provide a brief overview of Mac and some of his downside risks. Then I will look at some tape of former greats including Favre, Marino, Bradshaw, and of course Brady to show you how they produced power that gave him some of the strongest arms in NFL history. After that, I will run through Mac's tape and point out some of the key issues that are limiting his ability to deliver high-end velocity. Finally, I discuss how Mac could fix these issues and how it could impact his playing performance. Jones has above-average accuracy and ball placement. In addition, he throws a very catchable ball with a consistent touch on it. He even does a great job of throwing players into the open and hanging the ball for high point receivers. He is a cerebral player that avoids unnecessary moves and will throw it away rather than risking it. However, on the downside, his tape shows that he tends to panic when under pressure and when things are not going according to plan. He does show an inactive lower body that is evident in his arm strength and his inability to have a quick release. Mac has been criticized for a lack of velocity and a good deep ball. Before we dig into Mac's throwing mechanics, I want to take some time and show you some tape from some of the legendary quarterbacks who were known to have elite arm strength. We are going to take a look at Favre, Marino, Bradshaw, and finish off with the GOAT. I think it is well known that Brettfavre was a cyborg with a howitzer attachment for an arm. Favre had a powerful arm, but his ability to generate power from the rest of his body is often disregarded or overlooked. Favre was able to get all three body planes or axes into the throw. A plane of motion is an imaginary two-dimensional surface through which a limb or body segment is moved. There are three primary planes of motion in which the various joint movements are categorized. The planes that divide the body exactly into two halves are referred to as cardinal planes, which are further subdivided into sagittal, frontal, and transverse planes. Even though each joint movement can be classified within one of the three planes of motion, movements are typically not plane-specific and transpire through multiple planes. Movements in combined planes are described as diagonal planes of motion. Most athletic movements fall somewhere between parallel and perpendicular to the previously described planes and thus occur in a diagonal plane. The diagonal plane is utilized for overhand movements in the upper extremity, such as hitting a volleyball, throwing a baseball, a tennis serve, javelin throw, and a football toss. Brett Favre is a master of producing power in the high diagonal plane, or what is known as the oblique plane. Favre gets his whole body involved in the throw, using all the planes and axes, which is evident in his body action and follow-through. Favre throws his mass in a strong chopping action that is found in all three primal planes, and then his arm follows the force vector created by the summation of those planes converging at the release point. Looking at Favre's tape, we can see how he accelerates his body forward, up, and around to reach peak velocity right at the release point. Favre has the ability to reach back, drive forward with his lower body, and block his left side back to accelerate his right side forward towards his target. The idea of chopping wood does work here, but instead of chopping down, it's up and slightly forward. The point here is that Favre is able to create an incredible amount of force into a precise point at an exact time, with his body and not just slinging his arm around. Let's look at the tape. All right, so we're talking about 3 planes here again, right? See how violent his body moves? He's going to push off, so forward, around, right? And he's going to, well, he's attacking up with it. So slowing it down, he's going to push off that back right foot. His left side's going to come flying back as he pulls that left elbow in. He's bulleting it right in. See, his whole body got into that throw. It's diagonal. You can see his left foot. The power's coming across his body from his left foot to his right hand, right? So think about that. You take a step forward with that left, that right arm's going to want to pull forward. Notice there how he's putting everything. See how his body is at the angle he's throwing at? He's not slinging his arm and just releasing it higher. He threw his chest and his right hip at the angle of that throw. He pushed off and lifted everything up into the throw. He elevated the throw. He's going to do it again here. Right? He's going to throw his body at the angle. So his body leads his arm. Body first. See, yep. And then the arm drags around. Now that might seem obvious to some people. But when we go watch Mac, you might see something a little different there. All right, here we go. Oh, we'll slow it down here. So he's going to push off hard that back right foot. Now watch his left side come flying around. That's going to car crash that left side. That's going to sling the right side around. Boom. Notice how his body has to follow. He's producing enough force that his body has to go forward, right? It's not just a step and sling. Well, this is a good example of how you can even shorten this idea up. Not everything has to be a complete sellout. Ready? Snap, snap. He put his left foot down, created the connection to his right hand, pushed off, release. Gotta love Brett Favre. Look at that guy. Gunslinger.
Danmarino is widely regarded as one of the best passers in NFL history, with a strong arm and a quick release. Indeed, Dan had amazing talent, but his throwing mechanics are exceptional, which allowed him to deliver some of the best balls ever seen on the gridiron. Similar to Favre, Marino put his body into the throw. However, his arm mechanics and release point allowed him to throw through the point of the ball rather than pull down and away on the ball. Not only did this improve Dan's power, but it allowed him to drill the ball into his receiver's hands with a tight spiral at a range of velocities. In addition, it also allowed him to have an incredibly efficient throwing motion and a quick release. How was this done? After Marino would load the ball back, he'd have arguably the best forward throwing motion with the elbow above his armpit. This helps ensure that the quarterback is, quote, on top of the ball. That's important because otherwise the elbow would come under the shoulder and the quarterback would be pushing the ball more like throwing a dart, which obviously won't be able to travel as far or as fast. When your elbow drops, this is called being underneath the ball, and is one of the first things you correct in a quarterback's throwing motion. Not only does this prohibit a QB's ability to drive the ball deep down the field, but it also impacts the player's ability to deliver through the point of the ball. What does that mean? A quarterback wants to release a ball, not just move their arm a certain way and the ball flies out of it. A quarterback should have a great feel for the ball in their hands, which allows them to sense the ball's orientation in their hand from tip to tip. This lets them drive through the leading point of the ball and directly at their target. It also puts the hand in proper position to naturally apply a spiral to the ball at high and low velocities. So, they have a tight gyroscopic spiral even for short or low velocity passes. If you're not picturing these concepts, imagine throwing a paper airplane with your elbow down near your side versus above your shoulder. One is a wrist flick delivery, and the other is a longer application of power and a clean high point of delivery. Which one would you choose to make a solid throw? Looking at Marino's tape, we could see how his passes are direct extensions of his arm path. Again, a good load back, getting on top of the ball, throwing through the point of the ball, and creating a natural spiral from a clean release in front of the leading foot with a crossbody finish and a natural pronation of the arm.
Looking at Dan's tape, we're going to pay attention to his ability to get on top of the ball, deliver through the point of the ball, and have a nice clean follow through. Great example right here. Coming up, notice how his arm was at his shoulder level.
It was hard to tell from that angle, but he came across his body to follow through. See, notice how he gets his right side comes through, using his hips, his shoulders, everything punches through to the right side, even when he's off balance and coming up over the top. Still gets it done. In general, if you're looking at his body, you can see how his upper body elevates, right? So he finishes up and through. Even when he was going away, he didn't dive. See, there's like that slight elevation. That's a good one. Here, watch this. All right, loads it. You could just feel that power coming right towards the camera right there, right? Notice how his arm comes across his body. He's not fudging his release. He released the ball out in front of his lead foot. Even with that high arc, look at how the just gyroscopic, how many revolutions per second there is on that spiral. Low speed, still good spiral. It's hard to put a spiral when your hand's below your shoulder or at your shoulder level. It's easy to put a spiral when you're coming down through it and your hand just naturally flicks off. It just comes right off your index finger, right? Notice how he threw his body at the angle he wants to throw, right? He threw his body first, then his arm. Then the ball came out. He's throwing himself first. Not exactly 4K back in the day, huh? Ball just wants to just drill into his receiver's hands. So most of these guys are catching with their, minus that one, there's a lot of these body catches, right? They're just drilling right into the receiver's pads. Such an easy ball to catch. Beautiful. Now just keep, try to remember what this looks like. So we can look at max tape. Look how it's coming right at us. Let's watch that again. Arm's going to come up. He's going to load. Going to drive that right side. No, look, perfect, right? Ball comes naturally out. Right towards us. Arm comes across the body. No faux spiral. Even on low speed. Last clip here. That wasn't because of just a whole bunch of power. That was good arm mechanics. Perfect, Dan.
I understand that Terry Bradshaw is not seen as an elite quarterback due to his pass protection percentage, number of attempts, TD to INT ratio, etc. Yeah, his stats don't really support a case as a great passer. However, the Steelers' offense was run dominant with a heavy focus on a strong defense. So, throwing wasn't even really on the stove for the Steelers. However, Terry's arm strength added an element to their offense to start looking deep and catch defenses who were overly focused on the run game. This deep threat gave Bradshaw the nickname the Blonde Bomber and gave Stallworth a ticket to the Hall of Fame. Like the previous quarterbacks, Terry had a natural arm talent and was a great all-around athlete. However, Terry's throwing technique has one or two elements that are at top level that's not even seen by some of the best quarterbacks in the league. Primarily, Terry was able to produce an immense amount of power from rotational forces. Predominantly, his ability to use his non-throwing side to block his left side, thus driving his right side and shoulder forward and triggering an energy transfer through his upper extremity. Here, the shoulder reacts by moving into horizontal adduction and internal rotation. This rapid shoulder internal rotation moves the shoulder from the point of max humeral external rotation to about 100 degree of humeral internal rotation in roughly 60 milliseconds. This action is heavily dependent on the quarterback's ability to use their non-throwing side to put the body under tension to create a stretch reflex type reaction. Essentially, the harder you pull around and back with your non-throwing side, the faster the throwing side will be snapped forward. Not only does this make the throwing motion strong, but also very repeatable.
Looking at Bradshaw's tape, we are going to focus basically entirely on his left side. And if anything, you really want to focus on is his left arm. So he's going to pull with his left arm, and notice how that just jabs his right arm forward. Pull. Yep, see? Even while he's running, he can at least get his left arm to pull back, and that helps rifle it forward. Slowing it down. Because he's not even going to be planted. I think he just rotates off his back foot. I don't even think his left foot's on the ground when he throws this. So it just goes to show you, if you put the upper body musculature come across, yeah, see how if you pull your left arm back, in this case if you're righty, pull your left arm back, you're going to put that stretch right across the chest, and that's going to go up in the upper arm. And just going to yank that right side forward. And it's going to be straight forward, right? It's going to be a punch right forward. Pull. Yep, see how it just drags it right forward? Nice internal rotation. He's on top of the ball, comes right across. Bullet. Didn't have to stop. It's just all upper body connections. Yeah, look at that. It comes right across. See, it comes right across his body. Nice internal rotation. Pronation. Pull. Rocket. Pull. Rocket. There you go. Yep. There you go. Everybody's favorite catcher, right? Again, running, he just pulls with his left side, rocket side, right side just absolutely rockets forward. Look how easy he makes that look. Boom. National record in the javelin when he was in high school. You could tell. But it's the idea of the action-reaction, right? Rotational forces. You pull back hard with the left, the right side just wants to fly forward. Right there. Now you can see that one, his lower body was really involved here too. Pull. Yeah. Alright, let's slow that one down. Alright, so now you're going to watch basically his whole left side jab back. Or rip back. And then it's going to throw his right side forward and he just has to unleash. Pull. Yep. And then just snaps everything forward and he has to release. Not really have to think about it too much. Nice catch too. Again, just think about what this looks like with the upper body, the left side driving back, right side coming forward, being active, how it forces a nice solid follow through. Another one. Another situation where he uses that left side. Slow it down. Big pull. Nice big long. Yep. And just elevates it right up. I didn't realize how good a vert he had. I know he's smooth, but damn. Alright, there's the takeaway. Left, right. Nice job, Terry. Obviously, as a Patriot fan, I'm going to be extremely biased towards Tom Brady and him being the GOAT. However, I'm not going to apologize because his career stats and rings support that. Not only was Tom a winner, but his throwing mechanics are what young quarterbacks need to emulate. In addition to having similar attributes to previous quarterbacks, Tom had exceptional lower body mechanics and footwork that translated into his arm. Similar to Bradshaw's left side propelling his right, Tom's lower body transfers into his upper body and into his throwing arm. Tom's lower body movements created what we call positive separation, meaning hips leading ahead of the shoulders. Now, this separation is not limited to hips and shoulders. For Tom, he brings his knees and feet into the equation, initiating his throwing motion and separation from the ground up. thus creating a chain reaction up his throwing side and unloading into the ball. All right, for Tom's tape, we're going to really focus on the lower body. We know everything else is good. I mean, obviously we can enjoy that, but what we're really trying to look at is that right knee and right foot and how that basically triggers his throwing motion, right? His ability to get that, start that positive separation that is a chain reaction up the right side into the throw into the ball. Right there. That's a good one. So watch that back leg. Watch how basically he's going to load up. He's in that cocked position, right? He's going to get his feet under him. Boom. And now watch that right knee. Boom. See how that triggers everything else. Right? Getting that foot under you, keeping a bent knee, and then pushing that knee in behind the the left leg. So you're squeezing your legs together a little bit. You're attempting to, because your feet are planted, it's not going to happen. But what that does is it creates that twisting rotation motion that throws the hip forward, and then the hips leading the shoulder leads the arm, hand into the ball. Gets back. Good. Boom. Gets a step. See? That one little motion of just bringing that right knee in towards the left, squeezing the knees together, starts to just that chain reaction up the right side. Boom. That one shows a good bottom up, right? You could see that how everything's initiated with the lower body and then the arm follows through. Again, this might seem very obvious, but you'd be surprised how even NFL players and the guys that we think have great arms these days, how they have dead feet when they throw. Their feet move, but it's because their hips move. So it's not generating bottom up. It's like midway. So the hips create the separation, but it's like the feet are a follow-through mechanism from creating power from the hips with then going the shoulders, which is not horrendous, but this is why Tom Brady, is Tom Brady. Now, the other thing is what having this lower body mechanic, at the knee and ankle and the foot level, is that it makes things scalable. So he can generate more power when he needs to be more aggressive with that knee and less power if he does. Like, for example, let's watch right here. Now watch, it's gonna be pop, pop. Step, rip. Yeah, see? Now that time he was being aggressive. He was pushing off the back foot, driving that knee in. His whole right side just came barreling forward. But that's why he's the GOAT. Oh, perfect. I would like to point out that Mac is not devoid of the attributes I highlighted in the previous players. It is more about the quality or the magnitude of the attributes being present in Mac's throws and the lack of consistency. You will see the motions, but you won't see the degree of execution and aggression that is needed to actually elicit the reactions in the body to be then transferred to the ball. In general, it looks like he's going through the motions without the extreme levels of separation, reactivity, and pop that is required to generate high-end velocities. He tends to look very uniform and is lacking distinct movements in his form. He is playing like Gumby with an active arm. Let's look at some tape. Alright, looking at Mac's tape, we're looking to see if we can find hints of Favre's body action. Even right here. Look at this. So we're looking, can we find Favre's body action? Can we find Marino's forward arm motion? Can we find Bradshaw's left side? Can we find Brady's lower body mechanics? And even that right there. Notice how he didn't get his hip into that. Even right here, he's throwing it, but notice how his hip just kind of... Once he starts his his throwing motion, his lower body tends to stop. It just gets dragged. It's still moving, but it's getting dragged by his upper body. That's negative separation. That's before he's thrown the ball. Right? His right shoulder is leading ahead of his lower body. His lower body needs to finish the throw first, then his shoulder finishes the throw, then his arm finishes the throw. It's segmentation. It's like, again, the idea of Gumby throwing. Everything, There's no segmentation. Everything's just one giant movement coming across. It needs to be separated so you can create tensions, build up forces from the bottom up. Lower body first. No left arm. And you would think, oh, he doesn't need to throw it that hard. But yeah, look, there's two guys right there. If he's going to get it in there, get it in there. Give your guy a chance, both in terms of maybe getting some yak and also, like, getting a good secure ball and then at least protect himself before he gets railed. Yeah, that's a good example right there. He's not even, his hips are facing basically the sideline. I know it's hard to see, but you can tell by his foot position and his lack of rotation. Trent Brown's going to cover it up, but from our view. But you can see right now his hips are facing almost kind of the sideline. He needs to have his hips facing down beyond where Jacoby was. Jacoby had to make an adjustment on that, not to like, he had to stop. Jacoby wanted to keep running. Should have kept running. Ugh. Slows down a little bit. Let's watch this left arm. Not bad. But he's not even getting a stretch. So like him pulling his left arm, the ball's not even in the right position. So pull hard now, but yeah, see, it's like, it's moving, but it's not violent. So there's a lack of a stretch across the chest, or very minimal. It's enough to make the shoulder move, but not to get the, yeah, see, like, yeah, he's way off timing-wise. That arm needs to go. Like, his movements are happening, but it's all just, again, it's like going through the motions. We're getting that Gumby idea, which is, everything's moving together. It's soft. It's not violent. It's not crisp. Snap, snap. Because he's not doing anything, like, horrendously wrong. It's just not done in the right fashion. Not the right timing. Or the right attitude behind it. Because even when, like I say, he's not getting his lower body into it, it's not because he's not doing it at all. It's just he's not doing it to the full extent that he needs to. He's a step back, throw the hip, throw the shoulders. What I mean by throw that, which means if your arm action's going to be powerful, everything before it needs to be the same. That's a great example right there. Notice how his hip like just stopped. Kind of I mean, I don't know if that was true, but that kind of, Montgomery kind of got underthrown there. That should have been a nice laser towards the sideline, right? I don't think the idea was like Montgomery like turn around, basically falling, over, barely catching the ball and rolling into the end zone. That's a nice throw. Alright, that wasn't bad. Could have got more on it, too. Ugh. On to the Pittsburgh game now. Make note, these are all receptions. I didn't pick the ones that were the worst. I picked the ones that are actually worked out, and then also see how, if you had a little more juice behind some of these, or a little bit more velocity, a tighter spiral, it'll put your guys in a much better position to make some yards after carry. Hey, maybe our, I would say, our knock on Myers' ability not to have yak is not necessarily entirely his problem. So far, all the throws I've seen, he's barely, so far in the Miami and part of the Steelers game, he hasn't really had a chance to do it. No one's really having a chance to do it. Getting the ball and they're getting smothered. Get the ball there quicker. Allow your guy to at least turn. It only takes a split second. All right, back here. Gets his feet under him. Okay. Step into it. Then throw your right side. Come on. Throw your left. Nope. No. That's a great example. His right hip is about halfway done. So he needs to yank the left and then drive that right forward, push off that back foot. Pay attention. See if it happens. Soft. Soft. Now look, see how his hip's way back there? His hip needs to be leading his chest. You know, you got your little iliac crest, those hip bones that kind of stick forward, right? You want to punch that right hip if you're righty. You want to punch that right hip right towards where you're throwing. That way, the shoulder, your shoulder, you know, the ball, your joint in the shoulder, that wants to just drive right forward. Upper arm gets slung around, elbow leading the knuckle, and then just sling it, man. All right, we're going to end it here. Same thing right there. Everything's just, he's just arming it. He's Gumby throwing it. My frustrations here come from the reality that Mac physically has an arm. But the lack of force development from the rest of his body and throwing form does give us the idea he doesn't have an NFL arm. If I had one easy coaching tip for Mac, it would be try to start with the left arm and side. An inactive left side is really not that hard to fix with some basic drills and some throwing sessions. Plant the left foot and pull the left elbow into your side with force. The lower body and right side issues can be cleaned up with some non-throwing drills and strength and conditioning work. His throwing arm mechanics is not atrocious. However, you can see that he drops his elbow from time to time, which results in him pushing the ball. I cannot believe that this is an ingrained technique flaw with him. He has been coached up his entire life. Maybe it's just the pads or a performance anxiety. Overall, I think Mac can fix these issues. It might take some time and some serious effort to unlearn these bad habits, and then learn the right ones. The arm talent is there, it's just being suffocated or restricted by Gumby movements. The major issue here is not fixing Mac, but the time and effort required to fix an NFL QB's technical issues. Assuming these concerns are chronic, it might take a year of hard work to clean this up. Obviously, Mac does not have a year to fix something. In addition, attempting to change something in your form often results in an initial drop in performance as the body attempts to rewrite the movement pattern. This is not a situation of delete the bad and download the good. Again, maybe a quick fix with the left side and a change in aggression might help him ratchet up the velocity for a quick fix. As a Pats fan, I sure hope so. Well, there's my take on Mac's arm and basic prescription. On one hand, I see some hope. On the other hand, I look at the clock and I feel a sense of despondency. I guess we'll see where Mac is with these new targets. Hopefully they can gel, and the Patriots offense will look operative this season. So, do you think Mac can fix his lack of power? Is the offense hindered by his lackluster velocity? Let me know what you think in the comments. Thanks for watching.